Welcome to Identity Leathercraft. For this session today we're going to look at cutting corners, literally, and just a really simple demonstration of a couple of tips that might help you. So I'm just going to angle the camera down now. So you might like to find some things to use as templates. You can use things from around the house, or you can buy acrylic templates. We have some which will be going onto the website. I'm using some buttons, and I have this lovely big button which was from a coat of my mother's from the 60s, but I've got a little selection of different sizes and they're going to give me my different curves, and I quite like to use them because they have a nice hard edge, and also the holes just give you a little bit of ridge for your fingers to grip into. So if I just take this second size one, and I'm going to do this on this thin piece of lightweight veg tan calf to start. So I'm just going to line it up on my cutting mat to the grid and get it even, and I'm going to push my button so that it's coming to the edges, so I'm going to get my curves. I'm just going to feel with my fingers to make sure it's in the right position, and then with my knife and holding it firmly in place, I'm just going to take my initial cut, but I'm not going to try and go all the way through in one go. So I'm just working on several cuts, going through each of those collagen fibres until the leather comes away. And this will give you a nice, you can feel with your finger to make sure that it's right. Now I can just feel there that just where the button joined, I've got a little bit of an angle. So I'm just going to take a little bit of a nick off there and off that bottom bit of curve, and I feel that now, and I've got a lovely nice curve going on there. And the good thing about this method is, as long as you're keeping your knife blade straight, you're going to get your edge straight down with no sort of beveling out, and that's what you want to aim for. So that method is kind of the small gentle strokes going into the first line that you made, and keep working through until you get to the end, and it gives you a lot of control. It gives you a much nicer curve. The trick with all of these things is to make sure that you start with your knife. I do really like working with these precision craft knives for curves, but whatever knife you're using, just give it a good strop and pay attention to the tip as well, because with that particular method you're using the tip a lot to get your control and to get your curve. So the other method that you can do is what I like to call the straight line curve. So for that method, you would again position your template, holding it firm, and this time I'm going to do a score mark with an awl to get my curve started, and that makes it a lot more visible, so I can see where I'm working to, and it gives me a channel. So then with the tip of the knife, I'm going to place the tip of my knife into that awl cut at the very top. And I'm going to take, for this method, I'm going to press down with the knife blade and cut an angle off. And then I'm going to take, following that curve, and again making sure the tip is into that groove, I'm just going to take a series of angles until I've worked my way round, and I end with my knife again sitting in that groove. And then I'm just going to trim off top and bottom, and again that gives you quite a nice curve. Now sometimes with this straight line method you have very tiny little ridges where you've done a series of lines round, and the way I do with those is I get a piece of very fine grit. This is a 120 grit sandpaper, and then just give it a little bit of a rub just to take off some of the roughness of a couple of those edges. It doesn't take much at all, and you can run your finger over until you can feel that you've got your curve going round neatly. So that's how you would cut a corner on a piece of leather, and the method is the same for using on a thick or thin, but obviously with a thick or thin it's sometimes easier to do the first method with a thick leather because you're working through rather than trying to do your cut